have to do is justify that you can't return to your past work, and then if you can't return to your past work, that the best you could potentially do is sedentary work. And at 50, assuming it's unskilled sedentary work, you are too old to retrain, which means you are disabled.
Now.
Okay, so a little bit different argument than before. Before, at under the age of 50, you have to justify not only can you not do the work you did before, but you can't do any other type of work, and we end up with people getting told they can go work in a factory or they can work at a call center and that sort of stuff that everybody could probably struggle through. In your case, I think you've got a pretty easy argument. The reason for that is you've got Judge Stewart, so you've got a sympathetic judge. He's an older man that absolutely will give you the benefit of the doubt as long as you present well. This is a phone hearing, so I will call you about 15 minutes before the hearing. Now, yours is set at 10:30, so I will call you at about 10:15 from my cell phone. I will get you on my phone to where I can hear you, and then we'll connect with the judge, and then we'll go forward from there. I've done, I don't know, probably 30, 40 of these since the pandemic started, and they've all actually went pretty well. So I wouldn't stress about the phone hearing.
Okay.
If anything, it takes away the judge's ability to really judge you, and as much as I thought that would hurt people, I think the judges are giving people the benefit of the doubt because it's not their fault. So, that said, is this number the best number to reach you on for the hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Noting your problems that make you disabled, biggest issue is obviously the ongoing back problem, your compression fracture, your L3 vertebrae that didn't heal perfectly. It healed in a deformity that seems to cause you ongoing problems throughout.
Yes, sir.
You've got some complaints of left hip pain. However, I have zero evidence in your file that is justified beyond anything outside of your lower back. But that would explain why your hips hurt as well, as if you're walking funny because your back hurts. Osteopenia, that is a low bone density disorder. That is noted throughout. You've actually had 2 DEXA scans, and both of them said low bone density, which means that you are more likely to sustain additional fractures.
Well.
Which is also why it looks like they originally talked to you about doing the concrete procedure where they just try to put the piece back together. But they decided against that because there was a high possibility of, what's the word they use?
Projecting.
Retropulsion.
Yeah.
Retropulsion. It means it cracks it even more. So as the concrete expands, it breaks everything further apart. So they don't want to do that because they have to use pressurized concrete. So you didn't have the procedure. It looks like they did offer you a 360 procedure. You declined that based on fear of, more or less the doctor said it may not even resolve any of your pain. Does that sound like a familiar conversation?
Oh, yeah. And because they got to go back in every 3 years and readjust the brackets and the toe car screws.
Yeah, so, all those specific, I know about the 360 procedures because I've looked into it myself. None of that's in your medical record, so, you're welcome to explain that as much as you feel you need to. Point being, I'll go through your question just like I'm asking you. This is very similar to how the phone hearing is going to be. Your doctor recommended surgery, conservative measures failed, you are to the point that and I've got several notes throughout the history of your file to kind of exemplify to the judge what you're going through. Back in September of 2017, you still had edema noted on your MRI, and it even noted that even then you were not able to wear undergarments due to pain from the elastic waistband. There are other similar statements all the way into 2020 where you have problems wearing anything that really pushes on your midsection.
Yep.
That pretty standard?
Oh, yes. I'm wearing basketball shorts right now.
Okay. All right. So they did note you weren't a candidate for that other procedure because of the complexity of the compression fracture and because it had already started healing by the time you got to that point, and that looks like it was an insurance issue more than anything.
Yep.
So fast forward, you got a lot of records in 17, a lot in 18, and you barely have anything in 2019. Was that just a not having insurance issue?
No, all I did was have to keep going back and re-upping my meds, and always have my muscle relaxers, and always have my osteoporotic medicine, and I have a.
Part of me thinks that we've got some sort of gap in our medical here because I don't have records for that time period. I do have.
I can give them to you.
Parking. Well, I do have the parking placard applications, and they're dated. One of them stated July July 31st of 2019. One of them is dated January 10th of 2019. I just don't have records for those visits. But I'm not necessarily concerned about, to be honest, because if those doctors are willing to fill these out for your handicap placard, I mean, we can pretty much pawn off to the judge. Your Honor, she got diagnosed. She was told this is all she could do. She opted to not do that because of the risks involved, and this is where she's at. And now she's just getting pain meds and, renewing everything and trying to keep it as active as possible, but there's not really a whole lot they can do for you.
Yeah, I went to the doctor like 5 days ago, and they're going to put me in physical therapy and stuff like that.
Okay. Now, did you ever have the MRI on your knee?
I have not. I've only had the x-ray that just says that I need knee surgery, and they'll decide whether to do full knee surgery once they get in there, but I kind of...
Well, and that was one of those things I was going to tell you. There's a note about your knee where you tell the doctor... let me see.
Okay.
You tell the doctor a diagnosis on your knee. Yeah, notes potential torn meniscus, but waiting on MRI. There's nothing in your records that actually says potential torn meniscus. It just says that they did order an MRI, so maybe that was just a discussion.
I couldn't pay for it.
We can talk about your knee, but we can't spend a whole lot on your knee because there's not a ton of records that really support that the knee has anything major going on. All of the x-rays we got are negative.
Yeah, that's why I got the handicap placard, was because of my knee.
Okay. Well, I'm going to spend most of my focus on your back. So there's a few technical things that I want to go over first. First of all, your first denial was based on your inability to, or your first denial was based on your ability to return to your job as a lead cook. Now, the interesting thing about that to me is I'm guessing that is based on your own descriptions, because looking at your work history responses, you basically say you never have to lift over 10 pounds, you don't really have to do any majorly physical work, and I'm looking at this work you've done, and that can't be right.
I've been at the same job for the last 7 years, and
okay. Do you have to lift like pots and pans and stuff?
No, I don't even work at Sonic. I haven't worked at Sonic in 10 years. I work at a laundromat.
Okay, that was the place you were lead.
I was lead cook at Sonic like 10 years ago, and now I've been working as a...
So look at this is what's interesting is you were denied based on your ability to return to your past work.
No way.
Your past work was as a lead cook, but that lead cook job was back in 2006, 2007, 2008, and looking at your total earnings, if you worked that entire time, did you work at Sonic like in one spurt, or was it like a few months here, a few months there?
No, it was a year.
Okay, so you weren't even working full time then?
No. I worked 40-hour a week, and I was the lead cook Wednesday through Sunday. And
well, ma'am, if you were working 40 hours a week, even at minimum wage, you would have made way more money than what got reported to your taxes.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I didn't.
Denying you. Here's what I'm trying to present as an argument: is they're denying you based on the fact that you've done this lead cook job before, and it was performed at light based on your description. Based on the Dictionary of Occupational Titles, it's medium, and it's a skill level 5, which means you learn skills in that job that would be transferable to other jobs: supervision skills, computer skills,
Yes.
machinery skills, I don't know, customer service skills, everything that goes into that. The point is, the vocational expert's going to say you learned how to do stuff because you weren't just an entry-level employee. But if that was a job that you worked for the entire year and you didn't work full-time, and again, if you say I worked full-time,
no,
they're going to impute those wages on you because there's no way this is full-time. My point is this is, they're saying you can return back to that job, and I can turn right around at the start of your hearing and say, Your Honor, it looks like Disability Determination Services denied her based on her ability to return back to her past job as a lead cook, that they had noted as light as performed, medium as in the DOT with a 5 SVP, but that was from 2005 to 2007, and you made a grand whopping total of about $7,000 across those 3 years. There's no way that was full time.
Right.
And if it was under substantially gainful employment, they can't use those skills against you because you didn't work enough to justify the position you were even in, even if were a lead.
Right. And I didn't start out full time when I got the job. I wasn't even full time till like the last 4 months.
Okay. So the point is, if they ask you if you were full time,
No.
The easiest way to really answer that one is, I was now the turning point, and I'm not going to direct your answers, but I'm also not going to bust you out for adjusting accordingly.
Okay.
3 months or longer is considered long enough to learn how to do a job. So if you say, well, I was full time, but it was right at the end, I don't know, 2.5 months or so, that's not going to count against you. In fact, all the stuff you did as a lead isn't going to count against you. And then your description is just, I was filling out the answers as best as I could, and I got to talking, if the judge asked, well, I got to talking to my attorney about it and realized, well, no, I had answered this like I was a lead, but yeah, I was a lead, just only for the past, the last few months I was there.
Gotcha.
That explains your wages, and it makes your past skills no longer apply to you. Well, if you have no skilled work over the past 15 years, then all we got to do is get you limited to a chair, and I think your MRI is bad enough that it's going to be unreasonable for you to stand all day.
That's the truth.
So I think I can make that argument, but I think from a technical standpoint, the wages where you're working substantially gainful was 2014, 15, and 16, and that looks like you were the laundry worker. Now, same thing in that job. You noted that you had to bend over and that you had to lift, but you only noted you lifted a little bit. Now, DDS only put you could occasionally stoop and you could definitely not climb. I'm guessing if you're working as a laundry worker, you're stooping, you're bending, you're reaching, you're doing all that stuff all day long, right?
Yes.
And you're only able to do that 2 days a week now, right?
1 day. I'm only hired 1 day for the last 6 months.
Okay, so the explanation there is then called a step 5 argument. So every Social Security case goes through the same 5 steps. Number 1 is, do you have a condition that's going to last 12 months or longer, or has already lasted 12 months or longer? In your case, you do. 2, can you return to any of the work you've done before? I think it's an easy argument to say that you couldn't do any of it full time because it's just too physically exhausting.
Right.
That if you were to do it 3-4 days a week, you probably wouldn't be able to make it the 5th day or even the 4th day because physically you would be in bed.
Yes, I have.
And that's consistent with what you've told the doctors over the years too. So I think I can present that. So then you get on to 3 and 4. 3 and 4, do you meet or equal a listing, and is there any other work in the economy you can do? Well, you don't meet a listing. A listing is a set of Social Security rules that say if you have these problems within this time period with specific diagnostic exams, you automatically qualify. Those are the ones that you're thinking end-stage cancer, end-stage liver disease, kidney failure. The ones that nobody's going to say this person doesn't deserve to be on disability. Most people do not meet listings. Most people end up in a step 5 argument, and a step 5 argument is based on your ability to sustain employment. So in that case, we can simply tell the judge, you're a presentable person. You sound like you would be able to do customer service on the phone. But that doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it consistently. So while you're hireable, if you were to work 3 days a week or 4 days a week, by the 5th day, you wouldn't even be able to get out of bed to make it to work. And if you miss more than 2 days a month, you're fired.
Right.
Entry-level unskilled work, you can't miss more than 2 days a month. So that's what's called a step 5 argument. We are going to lead with that and essentially tell the judge that you are unsustainable, but in the alternative, we believe your best case scenario is going to be a sedentary job. However, with our amendment, at sedentary, we believe you would grid. There are some technical arguments we'd like to point out to that effect, and that's when I'll go into explaining. It looks like DDS has attributed skills from your past job in an SVP of 5. However, you were only a lead for a few months, and looking at your earnings history, it doesn't look like that job was even SGA to begin with. So I don't think that would count against you, which leaves you with only a laundry attendant and a basic cook. And a basic cook, you're lifting pots and pans. You're going to be lifting more than 30, 40 pounds throughout the day. I mean, that was probably the only benefit you had of being bumped to a lead is you didn't have to do all the heavy lifting anymore, right?
Right.
Right. So you might tell the judge that, Judge, they moved me to a lead, and that was the best thing about being a lead is I lost some of the lifting, but I still had to be on my feet all day.
Got it.
And that's why you can't do that job is you can't be on your feet all day anymore.
Exactly.
Sound like a plan?
It sounds like a plan. You're the bomb.
Okay. Plan on about 10:15 that Thursday morning, 28th. That is Thursday, right? Let me double check.
Yes.
Yes. plan on 10:15, I will call you from my cell phone, and I will get you on the phone, and then it'll be about 30-45 minutes. Keep in mind, everything you're giving the judge is something that they can't use against you. Best advice I give anybody in these hearings, and I give everybody the same advice, is think of it like we're painting a picture. You and I are filling in the color. Me and the judge are drawing the lines. You and I together, we're trying to sell that picture to the judge.
Okay.
Okay? The medical records and stuff, that's where we build the basic outline of the picture, but you're the only one that has the color. So don't overdo it. If you give them too much, you're giving them stuff to use against you. I mean, there's not a whole lot in here about your cigarette smoking. Obviously, that leads to low bone density. If the judge decides he's going to go into a lecture about that, give a common sense answer. Judge, I realize it's bad. I've been trying to quit. I've just been smoking so long it's hard to do.
All right, and I've got lozenges that I've got prescribed over from the doctor too.
You see my point, though. I mean, you want to be able. I used to, when I very first started doing disability hearings, I would go through all the questions I was going to ask with people, and I would, kind of walk them through. I'm going to ask this, and I'm going to ask this, and I'm going to ask this. And what happened was we would get into these hearings, and their answers would sound very rehearsed and canned, and the judges just didn't buy into it. So I don't do that anymore. Now, some of the stuff that I will go over, and this is stuff to be thinking about between now and the hearing, is things around your house that you had to make adjustments to do. So, do you no longer buy a gallon of milk? Do you buy a half gallon?
Exactly.
Why do you buy a half gallon? Have you thought about it? Most people that buy a half gallon, they stop buying a gallon because either one, they don't drink it all and it goes bad, or two, it's hard to pour.
It is.
And if it's hard to pour, you'll get those people who say, well, I'll buy 2 half gallons just because, I need the milk. I just can't lift the whole jug. Same type of deal. That's a good explanation because a gallon of milk is about 8.5 pounds.
Right.
Give or take the packaging, it's about 8.5 pounds. Well, if you say, well, I can't lift much more than a gallon of milk, you just inadvertently told the judge that you can't lift more than 10 pounds.
Okay.
But if I ask you, do you have problems taking the trash out, you're going to go, well, yeah, it's difficult sometimes. Okay, well, how much do you think your trash weighs? I don't know. I've never weighed my trash. You can't answer that question. Same thing, how long can you sit at one time, or how long can you stand at one time? How I get those answers out of people is, do you watch TV throughout the day? Do you watch TV to kill time?
Yes.
Okay, and what's your favorite TV show?
Workaholics.
Okay, and is that a 30-minute show or an hour-long show?
30 minutes.
Okay, say you want to sit down, you want to watch that whole show, it's the season finale, you don't want to miss anything. Can you sit through that entire show?
No.
Why not?
My back will start pulling and having spasms. I can't even go to the movie theater.
Okay, so how long can you sit during that show before you have to get up? Not before it's uncomfortable, but before you have to get up.
It'll have to be 10 minutes. And
Okay, do you just stand up and stretch, or do you have to get up and walk around?
I get up and walk while I'm watching it.
Okay, you just leave it on and kind of pace back and forth in the room?
Yep.
Okay, so you see how that gave me all that physical functional limitation information without you having to think about what's the right answer. You just answered the question I asked.
Okay.
That's the idea, is we want the judges to come out, we want the answers to come out to the judge in a way that the judge has no reason to question your answer.
Okay.
Because this is purely a veracity thing. If the judge believes you and believes the severity of your condition, they will approve you. And unfortunately, it takes going all the way through the process and getting in front of the judge before a human being will look at you like another human being instead of the people that have denied you before that are just looking at paper. And they're looking at paper, and what they're seeing on paper, this is how they're justifying the denials before. They're looking on paper and they're saying, well, yeah, she broke her back and it looks pretty bad. However, everything from the more recent record shows that it's a stable compression fracture, which means nothing's changing now. She should be able to deal with it. That's not reality.
At all.
And if you can't deal with it, and the best way you can deal with it is to sit around and be uncomfortable all day long every day, there's no job on earth that's going to put up with you having to get up and leave your station every 15, 20 minutes.
Exactly.
That's what we have to present to the judge.
That's the truth.
All right. Well, I will talk to you Thursday. Just think about that stuff in the meantime.
Yes, sir.
If you have any questions, write them down so you don't forget.
Yes, sir.
I will call you before the hearing. We'll have a little bit to go over them. Like I said, the only technical thing really is amending your onset date. All you'll have to do is agree to that. It is a technical problem. So I'll explain to the judge, Your Honor, this is for SSI only. I'm going to go ahead and amend to the application date. I show April 9th of 2018 as the earliest date. He'll confirm, yes, that's what I show, and then we'll amend to that date and go forward.
Okay.
You're just agreeing to it because you can't possibly go backwards anyway, so it's a technical yes just because it doesn't change anything, okay?
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right, I'll talk to you Thursday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye. How do you...